Hello and welcome to News Central Television. I am Lekan, Onabanjo, and here are stories making headlines beyond the continent. Let's begin the news by telling you that negotiations between Israel and Hamas to secure a cessation to hostilities in Gaza and a hostage exchange have stalled. Qatar's Prime Minister Sheikh Mohammed bin Abdulrahman Al Thani made this known on Wednesday during a news conference in Doha.
في قدر هذه المفاوضات للأسف يعني المفاوضات ما بين سير قدما والتعثر، ونمر في هذه المرحلة في مرحلة حساسة وفيها بعض من التعثر، ونحاول في قدر الإمكان لمعالجة هذا التعثر والمضي قدما ووضع حد لهذه المعاناة التي يعانيها الشعب في غزة، وأيضا استعادة.
Still on the Middle East conflict, Israel faces pressure from its allies to refrain from striking back at Iran for its unprecedented missile and drone attack as Washington and Brussels vow to ramp up sanctions against the Islamic Republic. British Foreign Secretary David Cameron and his German counterpart Annalena Baerbock were the first Western envoys to visit Israel and urge calm after Iran's weekend attack, against which Israel has vowed to retaliate. Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu, after meeting with both foreign ministers in Jerusalem, said Israel will make its own decisions and do what it needs to do to defend itself.
בא עכשיו מפגישות עם שרי החוץ של בריטניה וגרמניה. אמש שוחחתי עם ראש ממשלת בריטניה רישי סונק. בקרוב אני גם משוחח עם מנהיגים נוספים. אני מודה לידידינו על תמיכתם בהגנת ישראל, ואני אומר את זה גם תמיכה במילים וגם תמיכה במעשים. יש להם גם כל מיני הצעות ועצות, אני מעריך את זה, אבל אני רוצה להבהיר שאת ההחלטות שלנו אנחנו נקבל בעצמנו. ומדינת ישראל תעשה כל מה שצריך.
Meanwhile, Lebanon's Hezbollah group said it attacked an Israeli army base on Wednesday, with Israeli medics reporting the strike wounded 14 people, including 2 seriously in a northern village. Israel and Hezbollah, an Iran-backed Hamas ally, have been exchanging near daily cross-border fire since the Palestinian militant group attacked southern Israel on October 7, triggering war in the Gaza Strip. But Wednesday's incidents marked the 3rd day in a row that Hezbollah strikes wounded people in Israel, with regional tensions high after Iran launched a direct attack on Israel over the weekend in retaliation for a deadly strike on Tehran's Damascus consulate. Hezbollah said the attack came in response to the enemy assassinating a number of resistance fighters in Ain Bal and Shehabiyah on Tuesday. Let's also tell you that protesters held Palestinian flags and portraits of Palestinians detained in Israeli prisons as they commemorate Palestinian Prisoners' Day in the West Bank of the city of Ramallah.
رسالة ممزوجة بالمرارة والألم وخيبة الأمل من هذا الصمت الدولي حيال الجرائم التي يقترفها الاحتلال بحق الأسرى والأسيرات، وقلق من أن تكرس إسرائيل هذه التقاليد البائسة الإجرامية هنا في فلسطين وفي أماكن أخرى من العالم.
ما حدا بتصور قديش احنا بنعاني، يعني له بنت ولد ما شافش ابنه مرة واحدة بحياته، ما شاف ابنه ولا مرة. إحنا سنتين ما شفناش وجهه، 2.5 ولا زرناه ولا أبدا. إنه بيطلع 12 سنة ولا 13 سنة في الإداري، بيطلع شهر اسمه زمان وبعبر.
Away from the conflict but still in the region, Dubai's giant highways were clogged by flooding and airport passengers were urged to stay away on Wednesday as the glitzy financial center reeled from record rains. Huge tailbacks snaked along 6-lane expressways after up to 254 millimeters of rain, about 2 years' worth, fell on the desert United Arab Emirates on Tuesday. At least 1 person was killed after a 70-year-old man was swept away in his car in Ras Al Khaimah, one of the country's 7 emirates. Passengers were warned not to come to Dubai airport, the world's busiest by international traffic, unless absolutely necessary. And at least 65 people have died in storm-related incidents, including lightning in Pakistan, with rain so far in April falling at nearly twice the historical average rate. Heavy downpours between Friday and Monday unleashed flash floods and caused houses to collapse, while lightning killed at least 28 people. The largest death toll was in northwestern Khyber Pakhtunkhwa, where 32 people have died, including 15 children, and more than 1,300 homes have been damaged. Pakistan is increasingly vulnerable to unpredictable weather patterns as well as often destructive monsoon rains that usually arrive in July.
نور سامان د مخامخ لوخي تخکاری د کلوخي پاتې نور ارسي وړي دي تقریبا 1400 کورونه هغه متاثر شوي دي دغه کورونو چې کوم لایف سټاک چونکه د زیاتره د دیهات علاقو خلکو د زری زمکو سره د روزګار وابسته او د دې لایف سټاک سره مال مویشي سره روزګار وابسته نو د دې خلکو چې چرته د کورونو نقصانات شوه دي الته ورسره د دې چې کم د کاروبار د معاش او ذرایع د لایف سټاک په صورت کې د زناورو په صورت کې او د اګریکلچر زمکه په صورت کې هغه دوه هم د دې خلکو.
And now to bring us more updates as regards the flood situation in the United Arab Emirates and Pakistan, we have our international correspondent, Afua Hagan. Now, Afua, what is the update on the flooding situation in Dubai to start with?
They thought it would remain closed up until 8 p.m. On Wednesday. Emirates cancelling all flights in and out of that airport, which is one of the busiest in the world. There's still immense flooding on the streets of Dubai, where people saw lightning streaking through the sky. Schools across the UAE, the 7 sheikdoms, have been closed. Government workers told to work from home, private companies as well working from home. Now in Oman, more than 1,400 people were evacuated to shelters. Schools and government offices were closed as a precaution as well. Now on Sunday, when this rain started, 10 school children between ages of 10 and 15 and an adult were killed when their school bus was swamped by flood water. 3 other children and a driver were rescued in that incident. We know that one 70-year-old man died when his car was swept away by water also.
So what about other businesses and schools and the life generally in the country? How would you say the impact of the flood has gone about?
Well, it's been hugely impactful. I mean, Dubai in this area, the 7 sheikdoms around Saudi Arabia, Oman, doesn't usually get this amount of rain. In the cold winter months, it will have occasional rain, but certainly not this amount where you've had a year and a half's worth of rain fall in one day. So it's been hugely impactful on the region. You saw those very dramatic pictures of the floods there, cars being swept through the streets. And of course, because it doesn't get that amount of rain, the infrastructure is not set up to deal with it. So there's not enough drainage occurring on the streets to allow the rainwater to wash away. And of course, the ground is usually very, very dry. So this has been hugely impactful on the region.
And so, Afua, we're getting some speculative stories as regards what might have triggered the rain. Can you tell us what caused the rain and the floods?
Well, it's worth saying that, first of all, that there was an area of low pressure to the south of the Arabian Peninsula that was already forecast. But cloud seeding is also perhaps being blamed for this. Now, cloud seeding is a method in which chemicals are fired into the atmosphere to basically increase rainfall. And in a country where it's very, very dry, sometimes they need to instigate rainfall. So cloud seeding perhaps was used in this situation. So if you had man-made climate change, as it were, something to influence the weather, to increase the rainfall, as well as an already forecasted weather event, then yes, it could happen that those two things coming together would be hugely impactful and cause this massive storm.
Well, this disaster is quite similar to what has happened in Pakistan, where similar extreme weather conditions are being recorded. Can you bring us up to speed about that particular country, what happened too?
Yeah, absolutely. Now, Pakistan, in their most popular province in Punjab, they've had the highest death toll so far. 21 people have died in the floods. A lot of those people actually struck by lightning. Extensive areas of the coast as well have been covered by rainwater, described as looking like a big lake because of those flash floods. Heavy flooding also reported in neighbouring Afghanistan, where 33 people have been killed and hundreds of homes damaged or destroyed.
Well, we hope that humanitarian assistance will be escalated to these countries, most especially to the people affected, to mitigate the impact. Afua, again, thank you so much for talking to us. Well, you're watching Beyond the Continent on News Central Television. We have more stories for you, but then that will be after this break. So stay with us. The news continues in Europe, where EU Chief Ursula von der Leyen on Wednesday said Europe must take the next leap forward on defense as it faces threats from an axis of authoritarian powers from Moscow to Tehran. The European Commission presidents during a conference in Brussels pointed to a new league of authoritarians, including Russia, Iran and North Korea, that was looking to stretch democracies to breaking points. Brussels last month put forward a 1.5 billion euro strategy to step up defense production, but officials say this is not sufficient.
We have to bring strengthening Europe's preparedness is an urgent task. As the geopolitical and security landscape becomes more difficult, so the threats faced by European countries become not only more acute, but also more complex. And in response, we need to be better prepared to face multidimensional threats which cross over and intensify each other. And given the breadth of the risk, this cannot just be a task for one country or one defense community. It is a much broader task that will need a whole of society approach.
In the meantime, the new Commissioner for Human Rights of the Council of Europe, Michael O'Flaherty, has expressed concern about the situation on the continent a few days before a trip to Ukraine. Commenting on the situation in Ukraine since the invasion of Russia, he described it as the most fragile moment for human rights, adding that leaders are treating human rights issues like a buffet.
We have very serious levels of human rights violation. It's not difficult to identify them. We have excessive limits on freedom of association, on demonstrations. We have a huge inequality in our society between the rich and the poor. The difference today is that there's an increasing tendency of leaders or senior people in government to walk away from human rights, treat it like a buffet. I'll honour those rights because that's convenient. I'll disregard those rights. I'll even leave the treaties because they get in the way of our policy. That's a problem. That's a quality today that worries me greatly, because it's with that second attitude that we run the risk of the whole pyramid.
Now, we tell you that UK Prime Minister Rishi Sunak has boasted that his party's plan helped a fall in inflation announced by the Office of National Statistics. Official data has shown that Britain's annual inflation rates dropped to 3.2% in March, the lowest level since September 2021. According to Sunak, his party's plans are working and the Conservatives are delivering a better future for Britain.
He's failed to acknowledge that since we last met, taxes have been cut by £900, state pensions gone up, free childcare has been expanded, wages have risen for 9 months in a row, Mr. Speaker, and just today, inflation down again to 3.2%. Our plan is working and the Conservatives are delivering a brighter future for Britain.
Well, still in the country, a contentious bill that aims to eventually phase out smoking in Britain has advanced through Parliament, with the House of Commons voting in favor of the controversial measure. The bill would ban the sale of tobacco products to anyone born after January 1, 2009, effectively raising the smoking age by a year each year until it applies to the whole population.
Here in the United Kingdom, almost one hospital admission a minute is the human cost of smoking. There is no liberty in addiction. Nicotine robs people of their freedom to choose. The vast majority of smokers start when they are young, and 3/4 say that if they could turn back the clock, they would not have started. We are creating a smoke-free generation that will guarantee that no one who is turning 15 or younger this year will ever be legally sold tobacco.
The reason I'm speaking today is I am very concerned that this policy being put forward is emblematic of a technocratic establishment in this country that wants to limit.
And I will leave that to tell you this. Croatians voted for a new Prime Minister on Wednesday after a bitter campaign between the incumbent and a populist president who wants the job despite a court warning. The showdown between Conservative Prime Minister Andrej Plenković and left-wing populist President Zoran Milanovic comes as the European Union nation wrestles with corruption, a labor shortage, the highest inflation rates in the Eurozone, and illegal migration.
Pa gledajte, HDZ je malo predugo na vlasti I sve kaj je predugo nije dobro, prema tome vjerojatno malo više u lijevo I tak da. Iako danas u njem trenutku, kad cijela Europa ide u desno, vjerojatno će I tu nekako isto prilike biti.
Puno boljem smjeru nego što je sada. Ovi su nas pokrali, nažalost, I previše I sad bi se morala napraviti smjena.
Vjerujem da je zadatak svakog političara I onoga koji je na vlasti brinuti za vremenito dobro ne samo danas, nego I za budućnost I za vječnost za svoj narod I za ljude koji žive u našoj domovini.
Međutim, smatram da bi fokus više trebao biti na zaustavljanju I borbi protiv korupcije.
A break will do here. We'll bring you the rest of the stories in a bit. To stay with us. We now head to South America, where Brazil's President Luiz Inácio Lula da Silva has described Ecuador's raid on the Mexican embassy in Quito as simply unacceptable, adding it does not just affect Mexico but all of Latin America. During a virtual summit of the Community of Latin America and Caribbean States, Lula emphasizes the need to rebuild trust.
Muito me entristece que, passado menos de 2 meses da culpa de Kingston, estejamos reunidos para discutir a invasão da Embaixada do México por Forças Armadas do Equador. Medida dessa natureza nunca havia ocorrido nem nos piores momentos de desunião e desentendimento registrado na América Latina e no Caribe. Nem mesmo nos sombrios tempos das ditaduras militares do nosso continente. O que aconteceu em Quito no último dia 5 é simplesmente inaceitável e não afeta só o México. Diz respeito a todos nós. Nosso desafio agora é o de encontrar caminhos para a reconstrução da confiança do diálogo. Precisamos olhar para frente e buscar forma para superar essa crise.
In sports, former Brazil striker Romario has come out of retirement, aged 58, and registered to play for America Football Club alongside his son. Romario, who won the 1994 World Cup, is president of the Rio de Janeiro-based side who play in the second tier of the Rio regional competition. The Brazil legend said he would not play in the league, but wanted to feature in some games alongside his son, Romarinho. Romario played his last game in November 2009. His career started in 1985 for Vasco da Gama before successful spells in the Netherlands with PSV and at Barcelona in Spain. He retired in 2009, playing his final game for America FC, where his father, Ediver, played, before being elected senator for Rio de Janeiro in 2014. And that's all on Beyond the Continent. Don't forget to send your eyewitness report to the WhatsApp number and email on your screen. And you can follow us on social media. We are at News Central TV. You can watch News Central live on DSTV, channel 422, Star Times, channel 274, Avo TV, and YouTube.